Welcome everyone to the weekly code review group meeting. The first one is just an FYI. I'm not going to voice it in the absence of leaving this recording public, but it's exciting and keep an eye out next week. Yeah. And then Stanislav, you've got the second item up.
Yeah, I was interested in pushing the editing commit messages forward if it's possible. I was wondering if we are at all interested in that feature, and if we do want to get this into GitLab, what can be blocking this feature, what we might need. So I was interested in your opinion first.
Yeah, I left like a couple links down below, and it's not one that I hear come up often or haven't heard come up often recently. So I don't think about it much. And from what I recall, I think there's some reasonable concerns about like how do you model permissions, I think, around who can edit whose commits, and then how are you actually editing those commits, because that effectively would like make a new commit and now you need to go get approvals and sort of do all of these things over again. It's sort of like an interesting thing. The one that does come up though is commenting on commit messages. Lots of people want to review commit messages, especially in projects where commit messages are more important. Like the Gitly project is a good example of that. GitLab, like they actually use commit messages to be useful. And so like they want to review those to make sure that like you could catch spelling or comment, like, sort of the same line by line comment thing. And to me, that feels like an easier understood without sort of like trying to complicate a bunch of backend Git behavior use case potentially. And there's some MRs that have tried it. Nothing that's been merged, but that. And then the other one I put in is part of the use case of like editing commit messages is because they want a good commit message when it goes into like the default branch. Um, and one way to handle that would be to fix who can edit squash commits. Right now, only maintainers can set the message that is a squash commit in a project. And I think the reality is like whoever the author of the MR is should probably be able to set their squash commit. That would make more sense, since like if they actually had a commit and squash them all locally, they would be able to set the commit. And so maybe like another potential one worth exploring is that one, right? Like maybe we open up the like who can edit the squash commit to make it more permissive to sort of like a wide range of people. I mean, potentially comes with like similar impacts, but we're not like rewriting Git history, which is what I think would be complicated with sort of that first one. But I'd be happy to sort of know like what you're thinking here, or where you think the value is in being able to edit them, or whose commit messages you'd want to edit.
So, from my perspective, the question of editing commit messages is how much of Git do we want to make available through the UI? Because you can reword a commit, it does it like an automatic rebase, or you can amend the last commit. So, like, is that something that we should do in our UI? I mean, I think it's valid if someone would want to. Because that's something, and like the issue that Stanislav linked to has, it's something that you could do on your local machine. You could go back, you could reword a commit, you could do a rebase on top of it, you could like push all that stuff up, or you could just amend the last one. Stuff is possible. And I think as far as permissions are concerned, if you have write permission to the repo, I think you can do it to anyone's commit or something like that. I'm not sure.
I would like to add why I was even like interested in the issue in the first place. Um, from the top of my head, we have repos, like two repos that use commit linting. So basically, if you do not have a proper commit structure in the message, it won't let the pipelines run. So if you have the wrong message, you won't have linting, etc., etc. And basically, if you want like to fix a single line in the project, you can just use GitLab UI to do that and push the change. But if you messed up the commit message, you basically have to start the repo locally, change the commit, force push, and it becomes way too complex without this editing functionality.
You just described what happens to the tech writing team during every hackathon.
I'm kind of surprised that this is a problem that so many users have upvoted, because what you just described sounds very GitLab-y as in how we work, because we use GitLab for everything. But I'm surprised that so many other people are using GitLab to edit things instead of just using the command line for everything.
I think the small fixes, like where Stanislav said, like the one line fix or the one bit of text fix. I'm almost always on my local computer. If I just want to fix one line in a file, I use the web ID, because it's just I just don't want to start my local thing. And this, I think that's the point of what Stanislav is saying. Like if I just want to fix one line in a commit message, I don't want to go all the way back and do it. But yeah.
I don't think it's super useful for, I'm going to say, power users or folks that live on the CLI, but yeah, especially the folks who are doing small docs fixes. Oh yeah, we get into some fun when they make bad commits. So we teach everybody how to squash and make decent squash messages just to get around it.
Is that, Amy, is your experience the GitLab or GitLab project, like the main GitLab project, because the commit rules there are like a capital letter and then very character length specific, right? So if you, okay, yeah, it's those rules.
Or any side project that I push to and I forget that I need to use conventional commit. I got to prefix it with doc. Is it doc or docs? Can I remember? No.
Yeah, the VS Code and CLI projects both use.
Oh, I know.
I mean, does anyone have further thoughts? I'm not sure I would be prepared to like say we should go do that or dedicate time to any of them without sort of thinking through like all of the use cases there. But I don't know, I could be convinced either way. I guess I don't really have a strong opinion. I think the conventional commits thing is interesting. When I left a note, Stanislav, under yours, the way that Tomas deals with that in the VS Code project for community contributors is we just squash, and you can set the merge request title to something that's valid. And then because you're squashing, the squash commit gets checked. And then that's the commit message that the linters use. And so you can rerun pipelines like as soon as you change the title. And that is like the easiest way to work around it in both of those projects, is to just edit the MR title. I wonder, like, I'm like thinking through that, and because it's that, the other options for like would be like pre-receive hooks, but I don't think those exist on gitlab.com. You could use like a left hook configuration, but like pre-receive hooks would allow you to like enforce commits. And I know we have customers that do that. There are a lot of customers that enforce commit standards via pre-receive hooks. So they won't even let GitLab accept it without the valid commits or whatever else they want to have happened locally first. And so, I wonder if like the better solutions are preventing people from getting in the situation versus like letting you bail out of it once you're in it. Like, I think there's maybe merit to both, but preventing people from getting into bad situations is usually better than putting them there and then making them figure out how to fix it.
So in the UI, if you were to just make a one-line change using the web IDE, could you set it up so that it will not push to the branch in the UI if it doesn't meet the commit message standards?
Yeah, if you had a pre-receive hook on the repository, it still follows the regular Git paths. And so yeah, if those hooks were configured, it would be enforced there as well, I believe. But I don't think I want to say like you cannot do maybe you can do pre-receive hooks on all of GitLab. There's a difference between .com and self-managed because then I think the Git server hooks docs say it's for self-managed only because they run against like all Git, and so there's no way to like segment it into like a group thing, I believe, because they have to go onto like the Gitly nodes is where those hooks land.
Yeah, on that note, this reminds me of a recent discussion we had when we wanted to do editing of commits. I think it was because of that delivery team was before we had the commit trail stuff about the releases, the change log changes. So we had that discussion and we ended up landing on not making it easier for users to do something that has potentially destructive actions by changing the history without them realizing that. So there was a bit of some UX pitfalls there that we need to account for. It reminds me of that. Like if I'm making it easy for me to reward a commit, essentially I'm changing that commit. I'm changing the history. Somebody has that commit checked out. They need to be aware of that. Did I make a mistake? So there's a couple of repercussions there of making something like this easier. But I guess we could make that informed to the user. I don't know.
All right. No one has anything else. Then it's good to see all of you. Welcome to December. Almost. Early welcome to December. Almost the end of the year. And
out there for a second.
I was like, did I skip a day or what?
Yeah, I was like, whoa, I was thinking.
Yeah. But I get you. I get you, friend.
Well, for those of you in Europe,
it's
closer. It's closer than for some of us. So enjoy
parts
the
are
rest
right.
of your day. And yeah, we'll see you all next week.